Hey everyone, we are doing our community meeting for CAPE, June 8th. We're going over some of the transitional things that are happening in CAPE with respect to supervisor agent and custom agents. I'm giving you an more of a high level update. Shubham, maybe if time permits, we can do a quick overview demo of this, including workflows. I can also show a discussion um, on a centralized authorization server we have a proposal for. Just to finish the train of thought, Sibu, from our discussion. So in the custom agents, the chat UI and Slack bot, instead of using A2A, we've kind of pivoted to use AGUI. And the goal of for future is potentially these agents will re-expose A2A, or they'll talk to other sub-agents as A2A. So those agents we have, and we have an agent called SRE agent in our dev environment, which we're about to promote or prod. The way those work, Shubham, correct me if I'm wrong, they largely use MCP tools rather than sub-agents. The reason for that is it's more optimization, because every sub-agent will take an additional LLM call to re-understand the previous supervisor or orchestrator's question. So what we tried to do, and largely Shubham did this work, is to optimize that flow to use MCP just like Claude and other coding agents do with tools, rather than doing sub-agent loops, which are more complex and can be error prone. Like when you stream from the sub-agents, then you have to wait for the entire stream to finish and then do the agentic loop. Whereas with tools, you can be far more selective. Custom agents also have sub-agents, but that's a less utilized feature at the moment. You can include other sub-agents, but largely an agent is, because the context windows of frontier models have increased, we think that we are better off just using a select set of MCP tools. That's the transition we fully made. We just haven't enabled custom agents as the default agent. I think in 5.0.5.9, Shubham, there is a Hello World agent that I bootstrapped. I think it comes by default. What we could do is take that Hello World agent and basically make that as the default agent. And, eventually that gives us an opportunity to deprecate and remove the default supervisor. Yeah, I'll pause here and see if there are any questions or thoughts on that. And yeah, Shubham, if you can show a view of how the supervisor custom agents are, that could also help. Yeah.
Yeah, I can quickly show that. Yeah, so as like she mentioned, this was the case with sort of supervisor when we had one static supervisor. So when the user would message supervisor, you had sort of one LangGraph graph. All right, you had one LLM that you would pick, and you'll have a bunch of tools that you will attach, and then it would have sub-agents, which are basically sort of remote A2A connections to other pods running, which are sub-agents, right? So, and every time someone would invoke this agent, this would create a new session state inside this LangGraph graph. But as Sri mentioned, what we notice is that people want to change the system prompt because they want the agent the supervisor to do different things. People want to change the tools, maybe create a subset of tools and whatnot. So we wanted to encode that information, somewhere, and then sort of modify the supervisor, right? And so that's where kind of we developed the custom agents or dynamic agents, where essentially instead of having one static supervisor and instantiating at the beginning of the code, we basically instantiate the entire graph when the user invokes the agent. So everything from LLM tools, prompt, everything gets loaded in when the user actually invokes the agent. And so that way, each sort of session is a completely sort of new agent with completely customized prompt and tools, and the pod basically becomes just a sort of host of like lots of agents, right? um, Currently we don't support like remote sub agents, so there is sub agents, but the sub agents are local. um, there is no like remote A2A sub agent, but that's something we can look at in the future. And the way the interaction happens is not through A2A, but through just SSE and the AGY protocol. So, and this is where we can actually add A2A as well in the future if need be. Um, but that's kind of the state of how things are and kind of the differences between the supervisor sort of model that we had before and the dynamic agents model that we have now. Yeah, if maybe if that, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm trying to process everything, but I was just still going back to the initial issue I had, because once I have keep fully running, what I normally do is I just open chat, and when you try to chat with it, my understanding is the UI, this is running, chat is running from the UI pod, and then it tries to interact with the supervisor agent pod.
Yeah,
So how does now custom introducing custom agents changes that workflow? I'm just trying to picture that.
yeah. So the by default, there is like this default setting when you go to your settings. So there is the default supervisor. So when I select that, when I open a chat, there is like a routing from the UI that takes to the supervisor. That's what you're seeing today. If you create a custom agent, or if there's a hello world agent, you probably should see that in 059. The hello world agent, if you set that as the default, or in chat window, you can go and select the agent, then the routing from the UI goes to that there is a dynamic agent pod. There's a
Hmm.
container called dynamic agents. It goes into that pod, and that pod does like a bunch of magic to route it through AGUI to the custom agent. So by default, what you're seeing is correct. So when you install it, it is coming up with a supervisor agent container, and every chat that you open goes to that. Uh, you can change the default agent to a custom agent,
Hmm.
whether it's Hello World or whatever you create. But in reality, the supervisor agent should also work. I'll go debug which variable that you're seeing that's failing. But why I'm giving this context is that soon we will start to transition away from that supervisor agent. So I wouldn't like want you to invest too much time on the supervisor agent. Like I think custom agents are the way to go.
Got it, got it. Just to clarify, so what should be the right workflow? Like once we have a new setup around, rather than before using chat, the next task should be creating agents, custom agents from the UI, and then start using it. Would
Yeah,
that be the?
yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's the way, like, for example, like in our dev environment, or like, let me just show my local environment. Let's just
Mhm.
say you create a, something like an SRE agent, right?
Mhm.
So, and you have like a bunch of, prompts that you give, and you select which tools that you want. I just selected everything for my testing, and what skills you want to include in that. And I think you probably would make sense for us to do a quick tutorial video. We'll take an action on that. But the default installation should come with a hello world agent. I believe this is like a global agent that just says like a hello prompt. Uh, uh, that's the direction we're going with, because the opinionated agent we started with the the one that's the supervisor, we feel like it's too opinionated as an agent. It works a certain way because the way we initially operated within our team. Uh, but what we can do is have some prompt templates that people can get from or take them from. There is also AI suggest. You can say, hey, suggest me a prompt uh, for I'm building a project manager agent, right? And that's how we're building some of these other agents as well. So that's the direction we are going towards, is everyone basically creates their own uh, agent. If you think that's, you are like a external customer user, let us know if that's too brittle of a workflow or if that's not a good onboarding experience. We would like to improve based on your feedback. Yeah, as an
Got
end
it,
user.
got it. Let me retry this new workflow. I never tried them. I was always, after everything's up, directly go to chat, and during installation, whatever agents I selected, like Argo
Mhm.
CD or network, I just tried using them.
Yeah, but what you're trying out should also work.
Mm,
Let me go debug that and tell you which option is not working. Uh,
mm,
but just so that you don't invest too much time in this area,
right,
custom agents are the way to go.
understood.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
I guess a couple of actions more on the documentation side for us. It's, uh, maybe Shubham, we need to expose some info on like the transition that the diagram. I don't know if it's already there in our docs.
No, it's not. I'll add it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and probably a video would help too. Maybe a
Yes.
sanitized video.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's open up. I think this is very good discussion. We also have some interns trying out Cape, setup Cape. Um, and Sibu, really appreciate your feedback on trying setup Cape with Olama. And which model are you using with Olama?
I mean, trying just with Mistral. I haven't
Okay.
swapped with anything else yet.
Okay. Do you know what parameter model you're using with Mistral?
You mean the when you say parameter model, like how much
Yeah,
parameters
how
of?
how big, like how big of is it, a 7 billion parameter
So
or
it's 7 billion.
okay, yeah. I think some folks are using Gamma 3 or Gemma 3, 4. It would be helpful to get that list of things we can use without having to use any hosted models. Same thing with embedding. So if you have something that's successful, it would be nice for you to like document or blog this. Would be cool. Um, yeah. And if you do write a LinkedIn post or a blog, we're happy to promote that. That would be cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
By the way, I have the PR open where I'm moving Olama to a Kubernetes deployment.
Perfect.
When
Perfect.
you
Yeah.
get time, please take a look.
Yeah.
And
Um,
later on, I got a topic around that too, but once the other topics, so I'll come to that.
I think let's cover those.
Okay.
We are obviously within the same team. We are internally synced. One thing I'll surface in the community meeting is some of the changes that are coming in 5x. I think which we talked briefly here. Uh, I'll talk about like tagging strategy once we cover the Olama. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I like one of the issue which I reported was regarding the UI thing, like it's failing, and then I was trying RAG with Olama. Uh, Even there too now I'm facing issue because for the RAG server deployment, it's got a main RAG server container, and then there's a web ingester container. I think that's called web ingester. But I'm facing an issue with that where it keeps restarting continuously, and it has something to do with OIDC parameters, missing variables, and also just
Okay.
wondering, is that some for local deployment, is that a mandatory parameter, and how do I work around it? Maybe I didn't. Let me see if I have more details on it. I did
Yep.
make a note of it, but didn't open an issue yet. Yeah, it has mainly to do with looking for in just a OIDC issue or OIDC client, those kind of parameters, because of which it keeps crash looping.
Yeah. I'll get Shubham to explain that. My understanding is we basically moved away from it in the very latest version of it. It should be using only fine-grained access. So couple of versions ago, in order to secure like the knowledge bases, we were using basically IDP groups, like Okta groups or Active Directory groups. And we did a mapping of which Active Directory group would be an admin and who is a consumer or reader of that knowledge base or a data source. And there was a local, like a trust network type admin access. Anyway, some of that was historical legacy, and we started to move towards fine-grained access. So maybe that part is still either in transition or my last recollection testing with 059 has been, it has been vetted. What we can, send you on Slack back is make sure that this is completely tested without any OIDC params. Shubham, do you want to add anything? I know that there was a little bit of transition from that OIDC groups to FGA.
Yeah, I'm not fully sure what in 0.5 or what's changed with 0.5.9. I need to have a look. But in the previous versions, you could say allow untrusted network through and add like all the local IPs, and that would basically bypass the auth. Yeah, maybe yeah, look for that configuration. Yeah, but then that would the ingester basically tries to authenticate with Rack server by default, and then it basically crashes. So if you set that param, then it just accepts as long as from the trusted IP, it just accepts the connection.
Yeah, let me also take a stab at validating 059.
Okay.
Some of that was pre-59. That was the situation where we were using AD groups and trusted networks to allow who is an admin or a knowledge base admin. This has been moved or ported over or refactored into using the fine-grained access. So I can send you a detailed answer on Slack.
Okay. Do you want me to open an issue for this, what
All
I'm
right.
facing, or
Yeah, go ahead. Please
okay,
open an
okay,
issue. We can respond
got
on the issues.
okay. Because I was getting a feeling that something like CLI code is mandatory for these kind of deployments. So that's what I wanted
Yes,
to clarify. Oh, it's mandatory?
it is. It's yeah. So the newest
Mm.
tape setup,
Mhm.
when you, I think you were trying this out before I updated this another version of setup cape, where Keycloak and Agent Gateway and OpenFGA are like you can opt out of them. Keycloak is central to managing like all the RBAC. And one of the installation, I'm just rejigging that in the background. When you install with um, when you install Cape at setup Cape, it will install Keycloak and it will seed two accounts. One is an admin account and a non-admin account. So you can basically test how an admin can set permissions and a non-admin can see them. We're trying to also figure out how agent delegation works. So when a scheduled task comes in and an agent is trying to perform an action, how does agent have an identity in the system that is like different from the human identity. So when you chat, when you log in with a SSO or something like that, this may be interesting for us to include like social logins like GitHub. Let's say you logged in with GitHub or some other SSO like Cognito or Okta. You have a human identity and the same user that's coming in from Slack. With Keycloak, we implemented something called an OBO. It creates like an on behalf of token, so it can impersonate the user and then perform an action for that user. But if it's a service account or an agent performing an action without human input, what credentials does it create? So that is another piece of work another engineer from Splunk is working on. So how do you create basically non-human identities within the system? Yeah, still work in progress, but the rationale to pivot to Keycloak was to provide a more comprehensive view of the users and using their subject and principle to derive fine-grained access. So we'll probably do a lengthier tutorial on that. It is already some material in our specs around how it works. But I think once we stabilize 0.5, 9, and there will be a dot 10 and 11 in the next 1 or 2 days. Yeah, I'll do a vidcast tutorial on that.
Interesting.
But, yeah.
No, because today morning I just tested. I was deploying it using 0511,
Yeah.
and it never prompts you. I don't remember whether it's prompting you for installing ClickHawk, but in the final deployments, it was never there.
Okay.
So just okay. So
let me verify that. I have an instance where I set up vanilla Keycloak. I'm not going to
I
an
mean, is it a
interactive session.
prerequisite? Should I have it already around before I start Keep, or is it also part of the Keep setup?
It's part of the Helm chart and setup Keep.
Okay.
It should be. And I did not try a non-interactive session. I've been testing with non-interactive, like in this.
Okay.
So I wonder if there is an option I missed in the
Okay.
interactive options. Let me go through an interactive installation.
Okay.
I've been using like Claude to do a non-interactive testing.
Okay.
Yeah, let me reject that and see if I'm missing an option in the interactive setup.
Got it. Because I've been mainly relying on the interactive option so far. So
Yep.
what would the recommendation? Go with the interactive one
No,
or
you should go the interactive. I
okay.
was really, scripting it and testing it non-interactively so I can go fast. But I think the interactive is the right approach because that's what we are
Okay.
asking users to do. No, you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go double check if that option has been, correctly set or not.
Got it.
So what you should see when you run the setup script is the whole stack come up, and I did have an option to include Olama if you start Olama,
Yeah.
and I think that's where one of your PR comes in with the kind. So if it all goes through, hopefully the whole stack comes up, and you can just chat with the Hello World agent without any additions, without adding anything to the kind cluster. So, and then we can do local embeddings model, so we can ingest like docs or something like that.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I've been mainly trying to test, having
Yeah.
on Alama having embedding models deployed and then try to ingest a document. But every time something keeps, I've been running into some issue or the other.
Okay. Yep, we owe it to you to get you up to that level. We'll take an action to get back to you on Slack.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Feel free to create the RAG issue and post it on Slack. And I think we have a set of folks who are interns who also face some issues on the latest branch. We'll try to clean that up.
Will do.
Any other topics before we just give a quick state of the union update on where we are? I'll just call out different folks. Shubham, anything from you?
Nope, nothing
Questions?
from me.
Arthur, any topics for you to discuss?
Nope, not at the moment.
Okay, great. Sunny, any topics?
No, nothing from me.
Stefan?
No, so I still need maybe this week. I'm caught with something else for the directory stuff, but hopefully by the end of the week. Yeah. I'm gonna be out
Great.
tomorrow and Wednesday.
Hasit, anything from your side in any CNCF sandbox?
No, I mean, nothing else. I think it's going to get reviewed tomorrow for sandbox application. So let's hope for good news. Yeah.
Great.
Let's see.
Awesome.
That's good.
Yeah, I think the 5x is in flight. We have a 059 stable tag. Again, thank you for the feedback on the setup, Cape. This is something we obviously always want to keep it up to date. So we'll focus a bit of time to clean this up, get this up to date. Some of the features that are coming in 5x are, very strong RBAC implementation. So speaking of that, there were a couple of PRs that were reviewed on the community thread, and Shubham gave some feedback on how do we consolidate some of the implementation of authorization that's sprawled across multiple microservices. So as we were looking at, in the initial iteration of the 5x implementation, the OpenFGA tuples, like what a resource can do based on a user principal or a subject, that was sprawled in a lot of different places. So between Shubham, Kevin, and others who were looking for ways where we can kind of use a shared or reusable module where we don't have to repeat this information everywhere. So the proposal is to kind of have this centralized authorization service. So it's discussion 1778. Just in a nutshell, the idea is every one of the services will go through this API authorization endpoint. This is incorrectly said V1 at the end, but it's in the middle. Actually, the authorization, the V1 is right there. It's going to decisions. You can do a batch decisions, explain. You can also do grants. You can do stats on it. So this is an agnostic API. So in case we change our policy engine from OpenFGA to Cedar, or in the community someone wants to use OPA, today we have that code sprinkled everywhere where OPA or OpenFGA is exposed to individual services. The idea is that we let the authorization library, the core library, only expose like a contract, and use that contract to make the authorization decisions. So let's see if that contract is written here somewhere. It's in a spec. So largely it'll be a subject. Can it perform an action? And the decision will look something like this, where a caller from a chat window or a dynamic agent or a bot will give their subject, resource, and action, and their token. And the decision endpoint will verify the token, look at the subject, and then send it to the engine that contains those tuples. Can this user use this agent? Is a decision that needs to be taken, and that's up to the OpenFGA to encode those tuples. So what the central authorization service is doing is taking those decision points, sending it to the right engine, getting a decision back, and sending a 200 or a 400 response. And each of those lookups are audited. Whereas in the past, each individual microservice was doing it independently. That's just a lot of code sprawl and duplication of code. So the idea is to unify that decision flow through this one core library. And the grant flow is similar. When a resource wants to grant a resource or grant an action to a resource, that'll go through the same grant flow. And the back end of that is obfuscated from the user. So they don't need to know how OpenFGA works. It's all obfuscated from them from an API point of view. So that's what this proposal is. Yeah, please take a look, give comments. And there is also 2 PRs that implement and use them. This PR has the actual spec of how that was constructed. So yeah, the spec is here. And the problem statement from that was also represented here. Yeah, take a look and give feedback. Largely, the way it works is my local host. I can show, so I can say user. This is my user subject, and can I use this agent, right? So if I do that, it will show that I'm allowed to do this. Some are doing admin bypass, largely all of them are. But if I'm doing a service account or actually a different user, and if I show what it can do, this is based on the OpenFGA tuple that you can discover, read metadata, it can use it, but it cannot write or do any of the other like CRUD operations on it. It's more than CRUD, it's more fine-grained access. So I can see other things like, can I do something on a Slack channel? So I can pick, grid 4, what can I do? And it can show, yeah, what this user can do and what me as an admin, which has more privileges, can do. Yeah. All right, I think we have effectively couple of stabilization bugs to fix in 5x to tag it as a stable release. And then we'll try to lock it down until we groom more features and capabilities for 6. And yeah, and Sibo will let you know when the setup cape has any bug fixes or any gotchas. And yeah, go from there. Any final thoughts, folks? Okay, if not, we'll conclude this community call and post the notes and video on YouTube channel, and we'll go from there. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.